Festival Booster 2025 is finally coming out this week in Japan, and it's time to talk about all of the new cards and the reprints, and in general, how good is the Festival Booster this year? As always, this video is a first impression, so you can definitely just enjoy it in terms of like a radio or a podcast kind of thing and just sort of tab out and listen to it on the side. It'll be a bit shorter than usual as well because there aren't that many cards in the set as is usual for Festival Boosters. The high rarity this time around is there's no silver rares, it's just FFRs basically, which is a little bit sad. Last year around we had the character energies, which I feel like added a little bit more value to the set. This time around is just the FFRs and no secrets, no nothing else. It's basically just the RE pluses and that's all you get. So a little bit unfortunate. I feel like that's already a bit of a missed beat from last year. Last year we had new OTs, new Regulus. This time we have the divine, well, not the divine, but the unique skill, the ace units. So it's a bit of a give and take. It's a bit of a different approach, a bit more similar to maybe not even the Festival Booster from 2 years ago, because that one was like basically a lyrical set. But I guess that set also didn't have any secrets. So it's just a bit of a shame. I really feel like it's a missed opportunity to not at least give us like a manga secret of the new rewrite form of Virgilua, or like a, I don't know, a DSR of Alfred would have been cool with like Aichi drawn in clamp style would have been really sick as well. So I feel like there was a bit of a missed opportunity there, and I really hope that maybe they take that into account for next year. But let's actually talk about what is in each nation, starting with Dragon Empire, of course. So we're going to break down the new cards. There's basically 3 new triple rares if we count the ace unit as a triple rare, and then 2 new double rares, and then we'll skip the common reprints and talk about the other double rare reprints plus the RE plus as well. So in terms of new cards, of course, every nation gets an ace unit, which is a new type of card that you can only play one of in a deck, and they possess the unique skill that you can only use once per game. So the ace units themselves are kind of like radiant Pokemon from, you know, back in the Sword and Shield block of Pokemon TCG, but the unique skills being once per game is a bit more restrictive. The Dragon Empire one is the Migdard. So he says when he's called outside of battle phase to rear, even from drop or from deck, doesn't matter where from, for that turn he gets plus 5k immediately if you choose to proc the effect. And then you Energy Blast 3 to draw 1, choose an opponent's circle, and then for that turn, all of the cards in that circle lose their abilities, cannot regain them, and then you put all the cards in the rearguard circle to the drop. So it's basically a Verlord counter in a sense. It doesn't necessarily take out stuff like Astashion's blast token, so because that cannot be influenced by anything. And so this effect can only be used once per game, but the second effect can be used anytime. So when it attacks, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k, and if your opponent doesn't have any rearguards or one of their rearguards was moved from rearguard circle this turn, gets another 5k. So it's actually a very good plus 5k condition. I treat this second plus 5k condition quite harshly because on the turn you call this, if it's on turn 2, this will be a 20k attacker, which means you're asking for good numbers. But if it's on the turn 3 or like going second when your opponent's grade 3, then you also are able to have this be a 25k attacker, which means that you're swinging for like good numbers. Keep in mind these are grade 2s with intercept but don't have 5k shield. So the opponent is also not very likely to attack into them, so they likely will stick around. So the plus 10k gain here is actually quite important just because it's like a free 20k body. The unique skill itself is like Energy Blast 3 to draw a card is already pretty decent. They all kind of do that. And the removal is quite appreciated. In the current meta, it's good into buff Sagara because it takes care of the Verlord. And against other matchups, it just gives you like removal for Energy Blast 3 in a draw. So it's not necessarily like, I think it's still a very good card. As long as your deck is not using energy every single turn, you are going to be playing these. In particular in Dragon Empire, this is good in buff Sagara because she gains energy on her own. I think it might not necessarily be super good in Virgilua because that deck does use 3 energy every turn. And so that way only if you go second / if you play the old like Cosmore, no it's not Cosmore, but the Cosmog looking thing, then you will gain some extra energy, but otherwise you're kind of tight on energy to if you're going first basically. So I do think that it is a very good card to be played, but compared to the other unique skills and the ace units, it's not necessarily the best one. But I still rate it pretty highly. Like removal is still removal, and especially giving this to something like Alcleaver that doesn't normally have removal is also going to be pretty good. The End is also pretty happy about it because the End doesn't really have removal either. And in decks that already have removal, you know, in the front row, for example, like buff Sagara, then it gives you more back row removal too. So removal is always good no matter what, and so it kind of encompasses what Dragon Empire does, which I think is definitely pretty valid. Then for the new triple rares, we have the Virgilua rewrite form Alf Knights. This card basically turned Virgilua into not just a budget aggro starter deck, but into an actual proper really good deck. So it has the rewrite ability, which says in your hand, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you can choose the original Rewrite the Star Virgilua on your Vanguard circle and bind it. and then you ride this as stand, and this gains the following abilities, but at the end of the turn, you re-ride the thing you bound. So you search your deck for, or drop, for a Galaxian and call it to rear, and also for one of the secret skill cards, the orders, and then you're able to add it to your hand. So just for riding it, you immediately +2, which is very good. And then when he attacks, you can count -1 to stand all of your front row rear guards and get +1 drive. And then for every copy of himself in the soul, he also gives +5k to your front row. So this targets the Galaxians that you can target. There are quite a few, not like a crazy amount, but enough to be worth talking about. So the main one is going to be the Azelva if you don't already have it, just because this is like your key card, your 15k plus, 15k shield that also gets given extra power by the promo from before. The one I see people searching a lot is the Vanguard, which of course is the counter charger that you usually only play like 2 copies of, that also buffs up both himself as well as one of your other units, or your Azelva rather. If you don't have the grade 1 Cosmor, his name is Cosmor, it doesn't just look like Cosmog. This guy of course revives himself when your Azelva is placed. And also the crazy thing about this thing is that you guys don't have this in English yet. You have this one, the energy charging one, but this one's actually really good because I think they're the same, where when your Azelva stands, he stands in the back as well. So because this stands your whole front row, if you have a back row of like 2 Cosmors, then just seeing one Azelva stand will stand all of them as well. So it basically is a full board restand, not just the front row. So these are the targets you can search. And then the Hisatsuwaza are basically the 2 orders. So the Stardust Blade you guys already have in English. It's the CB1 to top 5 call something and get your Vanguard really buff one. But we also have this one, which is the Blazing Starcross. That basically lets you Soul Blast 1 and choose an Azelva, give it 10k for the turn, and if one is grade 3 or greater, then when that Azelva stood by your Virgila, if your opponent has 3 more cards bound, or if you're Persona riding, then that also gets +1 crit. So the Azelva itself gets a crit, which is really, really good. So you usually play one of each of these, then you just search the one that you want to have for the turn. So if you want to superior call stuff and you have extra CB, then use the Stardust Blade. If you want to just like have a really buff Azelva, then you go for this one. So funnily enough, English will get this first before they get the new stuff, the new starter deck with like the extra couple of cards. So the builds for Virgila will be quite different between English and Japanese, but this card on its own is very good. I mean, it's like literally a CB list +2 already. Technically a +1 because you lose a card from hand by writing this, but I mean, you would be Persona writing otherwise, so I guess it's fine. The crazy thing is that you can Persona ride the old Virgila and then use this effect to have both the Persona ride plus as well as his +5k to the front row if you have multiple copies of him in the soul. And the fact that he also triple drives while restanding your board is just very good. The only thing is that this deck does cost quite a lot of CB. You CB for this, you CB for your order. It's like on turn 3 going first, you CB 1 for the restand of the rear guards as well. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that. So Dragon Empire isn't really known for counter charge. But otherwise, I think this is a very good card. And then the generic, every nation got a grade 3 generic that has intercept and 5k shield. And when it attacks the Vanguard, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you Energy Blast 3, choose an opponent's rear guard and retire it and get +5k. And if you have 4 more damage or you Persona row this turn, then for each grade of the card retired, you also get another +5k. So this one again really encompasses what Dragon Empire is. It gives you removal, it gets lots of power, and I think it's honestly quite good for that. Again, in decks that don't necessarily use too much energy, this is also a 5k shield you can use early, which I think is pretty good. And the fact that it's otherwise a 23k like minimum attacker, right? Or 18k minimum attacker, but it's like you retire grade 3, it becomes 33 on his own without Persona, which I think is really, really high numbers. So I could see this guy being played, especially in decks that don't have removal, that want just like a big beater and don't use much energy. So like Overlord now uses a lot of energy because of its new promo, but then for example, something like Alcleaver I feel like could be, I guess it might be tough because of the restander using a lot of energy, but that only usually comes down on like the big combo turns. So I do think this will be a pretty interesting card. And then a reprint that takes up a triple rare slot is the Dual Nations, which of course for Reveltis is played in a lot of things, so definitely a good one. And then the 2 new double rares, one is for Cody Blaze and Zed-Lance, which basically says that if your Vanguard is Cody Blaze or Zed-Lance, this gets boost in the following abilities. When placed on rear, you choose a smithing card in your order zone and stand it. If you did not stand it, look at top 5 of your deck and choose one, put it to soul and shuffle your deck. This allows you to find a Cody Blaze off the top 5 and set up the restand much easier, which is also very good. And when your Vanguard finishes attacking, end of that battle, if your opponent is grade 3 or greater, you can discard 1 and choose your Vanguard, make its drive 1, or give your front row units +5k. So basically, if you're going for like the big restand in Cody Blaze, you can go for like the +5k, but in Zed-Lines, you can make your drive 1 because normally would be 0. So it's really good support for both decks. I think this card is like, of those like 2 deck supporting double rares, this one might be the best one, especially for Cody Blaze. That first effect is like super key. And then all of the quick start decks got a double rare, and they're all honestly pretty good. The Triumph Dragon one says if your Vanguard is a G-Sun or a Triumph Dragon, then it gets the following abilities. When placed on rear, count lost 1, look at top 7, find a grade 3 or greater normal unit, add it to your hand, and if you didn't, countercharge 1. So this finds you your Persona ride, which usually you find off of the Vanguard anyway, but this lets you find your like double rare rear guard as well. Also finds orders too, which is pretty, oh no, so it doesn't find orders, it's only normal units. And then the battle that boosted a rear guard if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, and this is the first battle of the turn. Soul Boss 1, retire this, stand one of your former rear guards and give it plus 5k. Triumph Dragon never had 4 attacks, so this is the first time that this deck gets 4 attacks outside of like running generics. So for that alone, it's really good. It's also Searcher, which I think is also very nice because you can restand the main rear guard, which like gets an extra crit. So for that reason, I think this card is actually also quite good. So far, everything is pretty decent. Like you could say this one's not the best of the generic grade 3s, but it's still pretty good. And then for reprints, this one's technically a new one for English, which is the G-San. So this is the Triumph Dragon user G-San that basically gives all of your other units that are grade 3 intercept and 5k shield. And then you can come one, discard 1 to revive a grade 3 from your drop. And if it's the Triumph Dragon, then this unit gets triple drive, which is not too bad. I mean, Triumph Dragon is a vanilla there, but it's not too bad. And then end of while he attacked, if you choose a Triumph Dragon on your rear guard circle and say, I told you to stand up, and then he stands and then he gets plus 10k. So he turns the Triumph Dragon into the, like, not even vanilla, but instead makes him stand. So literally it's like a manga panel into a card, which is kind of funny. It even shows you the order in which you read it, which is kind of funny. So yeah, this is the first in English. It won't necessarily be good, but it's definitely nice that we finally have it. Because quite a lot of it's good timing because Koro Koro is just coming out in English right now. So just for that reason, I think it's a pretty well-timed reprint. And then they basically reprinted all the shop promos as well as the monthly Booster Road promos that still didn't have any reprints before monthly Booster Road ended. So I'm not going to go over the cards because they're not new, but in terms of good reprints, this one's pretty whatever. It's not really played. This was played in Varga very briefly. This is a Triumph Dragon reprint that's like a Self Reviver and a Countercharger, so it's the good one, I'd say. This is a Eugene/Gandiva reprint that wasn't played much in Gandiva for what I remember. The Ride Skipper for Tamayura is a good one. This one for Shoujoju was never really played. So in terms of good reprints, it's like G-san, maybe this, and definitely this. And of course, the RE Plus Cindy basically carries the reprints for Dragon Empire, being a super important staple for Buff Sagara that you must have like at least 3 of. And finally going to be available in foil in Japanese. It has never been foil until now. And is also an FFR. It's actually the most expensive FFR in the set. So Dragon Empire overall, I would say the new cards are, I would even give it like a 5 out of 5, but I think maybe 4 out of 5 because the quality of these two is a bit lower than the rest of the nations. But then the reprints are where it really struggles. It's very much carried by Cindy. So I think just because of Cindy, it's worth giving it a good rating, but it really feels like they could have done a bit better here. I was really hoping for Guncyclers to be reprinted this time around, so I'm really surprised they didn't go for that. It's been over a year since they came out and they still don't want to reprint them, which is kind of strange. So I think Dragon Empire for me, like with the new cards and the reprints combined, if I stick with my 5 out of 5 for new and then 3 out of 5 for the reprints, I guess we're going to go for like a 4 out of 5. It's really like the highs and the lows combined. Moving on to Dark States. Dark States, I think, really got good stuff all around, like promos, reprints, like new card, everything. The unique skill is one of the best ones in my opinion. So this one is the Varak. So he's the Dark States, the ace unit, and he has the unique skill that when he's called outside of battle phase on rearguard circle, he gets plus 5k, and then you can energy blast 3 to look at top 7, choose one, put it to soul, shuffle your deck, and then choose a card from your soul that is grade equal to or lower than your Vanguard and call it. This is already very good because it deck thins one. It gives you searching, which a lot of decks, of course, like to do the big searching in Dark States as well. So it's deck thin, searching, call from soul, which means it procs effects, like when called from soul or when called like in general. So that's also very good. And then his 5k game condition is basically if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, and if you have 5 or more soul, or if you soul blasted 3 or more this turn. So this way, this is also pretty good because in most decks you do have a big soul. This like soul blast 3 or more means like it's good in Jeweled. It's surprisingly not good in Odium. So Odium, the last plus 5k is actually quite hard to get because usually you don't have much soul and you're not soul blasting 3. I guess if you attack with this last and you use the Colossus Soul Blast 2 to draw and like the Odium Soul Blast 1 to triple drive, then you get it. But the first effect is really good in Odium because she doesn't use that much energy, so having 3 to call something out and search something in deck thin is very good. And also the fact that this can put anything to soul and then call something is good, which means you can also target orders and whatnot if you need to like set up orders in soul for like Silsera or whatever. So the Dark States one just feels really good. It might be a bit tight to use in Blangmire. Blangmire is one of the arguably the best Dark States deck right now, and it does use energy very aggressively. It uses 3/3/3 all the time, especially because it also runs Tiskar. So there might be a little bit tough, but then stuff like Jeweled and Odium I think is honestly very, very good and definitely will be a very good pickup if you're a Dark States main. The generic triple rare is also very good. Again, intercept 5k, grade 3. When it attacks a Vanguard, if you're grade 3 or greater, energy blast 3, choose any player's rearguard and send it to soul, and then you may give this plus 5k for that battle. And if you have 4 more damage or your Persona Road, he gets the effect that when your opponent puts a card to the guardian guardian circle. If the grade of that card is the same as the unit that was put to soul for this ability, then it loses 5k power. So this is really good because if you target a grade 1 or a grade 2, then any grade 1s or grade 2s they would guard with become immediately 0 shield. And if you target a grade 0, then it makes all of their triggers suddenly be a bit less effective. So the power is only 18k, but you're kind of making it awkward for your opponent to guard, which I think is really, really cool. But just so Energy Blast 3, so it's not even a CB or a Soul Blast, to put an opponent's rearguard to soul is really strong removal. We've seen this used before and it's honestly very effective removal, so I do think this is a very good generic. Then the reprint for the Shuraga, not the best of the dual nations, but if they're reprinting the dual nations, they're going to reprint all of them, of course. And then this like very color faded support card. You can see like the continuous is like the continuous and the soul charge icon are very like faded out here. This is also largest and rewinder support that in drop, when your Vanguard is placed during your ride phase, if you don't have him on board, he calls himself out and soul charges 1. And then while he boosted, he goes to soul in order to look at top 5 to find a grade 3 or greater that is in a Regulus and add it to your hand. So Osalarge's already had a reviver, which is this thing. So basically when you would ride Osalargist, then you don't have this on board. Soul Blast 1, call it, energy charge 1. And then the battle boosted like the grade 3 rear guard for this deck. You put them both into soul and then choose a card from drop, or like you draw a card and then choose a card from drop and put it to soul. So that thing does that, and this thing basically gives you a search. So everything goes to soul, which is also pretty good for building that soul to like call stuff out later. And the deck thinness card, nice. So I would say this card is like initially seemed kind of bad, but having 2 cards that respawn when you ride is honestly pretty good. You remake a board very, very easily. So it helps you access your main grade 3 rear guards. I think that's also nice. And then the Jet double rare is very good. So if your Vanguard is a Gear Dragon, this gets the following. When placed on rear, choose a non-sentinel normal unit from drop or bind zone, send it to bot deck, and then get plus 5k. So that's already very good because that lets you recycle stuff that you would want to kind of like call out with Fate Rider and whatnot. And then when he's put from rear to bot deck or bound, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, Cannon Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw 1 and give a unit plus 5k. So this means that you can basically swing with this and then send it back with the Fate Rider to call out a grade 2, and then he will draw you 1 and also give 5k to like the thing called or anything really. So that's honestly very good. I think this card alone does a lot. It's also support for Time Stamping Dragon, which was a card in last year's Festival Booster. So I do think the Gear Parrot is very nice. Then for reprints, this is the first time we get the Rewinder Chrono. He has a very simple skill. When he attacks the Vanguard once per turn, Kamos 1 and put a rearguard to soul, and then choose a card that is a different grade from the one you put for the cost of this effect from your soul and call it to rear. And for that battle, this unit gets triple drive. So 4 attacks and triple drive for CB1 and putting a card from like a rearguard to soul and then calling it out. So I don't even like minus. It's honestly like very simple, but really not too bad. And then the reprints we have are actually very good for Dark State. It's like Direful Doll Searcher, good. This is the Diablos multi-tech maker for Bruce, good. Butcher is played in some builds of Blangmire right now, good. This is a staple for Astroa, good. This is a staple for Osalargist, good. Staple for Chaos, good. Played in quite a few jet lists as well, good. I'd say the Servant Falcratio was the only one that's kind of mid. It's an RE plus as well, so it's like this, you see, you're pulling this or Yuika or like Cindy, so I wouldn't be too happy about pulling the Falcratia. I feel like they could have made this into like a Vade Rock or something a bit more sought after for Dark States. Personally would have been happy about Vade Rock, but I feel like all the nations have one of these where I was like, kind of wish this was something else, but overall, Dark State's 5 out of 5. I think it's very easily a 5 out of 5. Everything is good. Like, reprints are good outside of like the Falcratia, I guess. And then all the new cards are honestly, they read good. So nothing more to say. It's a 5 out of 5. For Brandt Gate, I'd say also a very strong lineup for the most part. The unique skill is very good. This is the Vermeer Extaurdia. Cool name, very cool look as well. So it's the ace unit that has the unique skill when you call it to rearguard circle outside of battle phase, gets plus 5k for the turn. And then Energy Blast 3, look at top 3, add 1 to hand without showing your opponent. But then if you have 2 or more cards in your order zone, you can search top 5 instead of 3. So this is really good in virtually everything. Having a top 5 searcher for Energy Blast 3 that also is a 15k attacker is very good. It just adds consistency to like every single deck. So if you see this, it basically helps you find PGs, helps you find Persona, helps you find your key pieces. So for that reason, it's very, very good. I think it's like an auto include into anything that isn't starving for energy. And then when it attacks, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, gets plus 5k. And if you rest one of the cards in your order zone, it gets another 5k. This is really good synergy with Freezing Wave. Not the best synergy in like dimensional robos, just because they tend to rest their orders themselves. But this is also like Not bad in Eva when you have like an extra order left to like rest. This is really good in Prison because they never rest their order. So the plus 5k gain condition is actually quite good, I'd say. But EB3 to +1 and have a 25k attacker I think is really, really strong. So in my opinion, this will go into a majority of Brandt Gate decks. I don't see a world where it doesn't. So in my opinion, I personally rate this as a very highly as a unique skill. So I think it's honestly very high. I will do a rating video of like tiering all the different ace units because I do think there's a lot of interesting discussion to be had there. Then the generic is also very good. Intercept in 5k grade 3, and when it attacks a Vanguard, so it has to attack a Vanguard. If your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, Energy Blast 3, your opponent chooses one of their rearguards and binds it, and then this gains plus 5k. And if you have 4 more damage or your Persona Road gets another 5k and your opponent cannot play Blitz orders. This is quite good because of the bind. Bind is a very strong form of removal, and I've seen people cooking with Impuldio with this because Impuldio got a rearguard, a double rare that retires. So you have a way to retire your opponent's stuff, so then you can just like pinpoint bind something as well. Pretty good, especially with like Night Rose playing PGs and hostage and stuff. You can kind of just like swing with this and bind it so they cannot re-access that PG, and they also cannot use Night Rose's GB2 to revive it either. That is, of course, if that's the only remaining rearguard on their board, which sometimes it is, but sometimes there is an Alvina lingering in there too. So the opponent choosing might not seem that strong, but honestly, with how much removal some decks have, I think is really not that bad. You can also play smart with like Messiah with this too. So I do think it's pretty cool. It basically just gives a really strong form of removal to a lot of Brandt Gate decks out of nowhere. Valtrosa reprint, very good. Definitely happy about this one. Good support for Brakku and Ashturm, that when placed on rear, puts a grade 3 or greater from drop to soul, which immediately sets up your Ashturm restand combo. And after it boosts, if your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, you retire this to choose a grade 3 or greater rearguard in front of her and bounce it to hand after she boosts. Or if your Vanguard's grade 3, or sorry, grade 4 in case of Brakku, you can countercharge 1. That deck does appreciate the countercharge, so I definitely think it's good for that deck too. But I think especially like having the bounce is also very good for Ashturm. Like setting up turn 3 Ashturm in general, I think is really good. A really strong part of this card. Sorry, out of habit, I always put myself in the corner, but I should really put myself in the middle here, shouldn't I? What card is not very good is this Impuldio support. This is Impuldio and Gravidia support that only works when your Vanguard is already Impuldio or Gravidia, so it doesn't do anything until turn 3. You call it from hand, you Soul Blast 1, look at top 7 for a card with a different name than your Vanguard that is not a Regulus piece, that is a grade 3 or greater and real added to your hand. So if this allowed you to play it on turn 1, that would mean that you'd be able to Soul Blast 1 to set up for Impuldio, but it doesn't do anything until turn 3. It's so sad. And then it gets plus 2k when it boosts. Like, what is this like 2022 card design? So like you could say that this searches for like the drive checking rearguard in Impuldio, searches for this in Impuldio, I guess, searches for Gravidia masks, I guess, but I don't know, man. I wish this would have the text of like if your Vanguard is Impuldio or Nordlinger, or if you revealed one from Ride deck. Like at least make it like that so you could use it on turn 1, because otherwise, it's a bit too slow. Then the reprints for Brandt Gate, we have the Brakku finally in English. This card was meta last year. Once per turn, you discard 1 and choose a product in your order zone and operate it. And then if you have 3 or more set orders in your order zone, this unit gets triple drive for the turn. So it's basically just like you can burn something with a Freischutz maximum and then minus 5k to your opponent's Vanguard, get triple drive immediately. And when he attacks, you counterblast 1 and stand a rear guard. So this can restand the Freischutz maximum, which is really good because you can do all the Welstra combos because his name has Welstra in it. And then after you have double Freischutz maximum on board, you can then swing with this, restand one of them while having all like the minus power and the triple drive. So he was like a better version of Welstra, which is kind of funny. So very good reprint there. Glad this is finally out in English. Then of course, important reprint for the Ashturm. The Barkston is pretty appreciated. This is a good countercharge for heroes as well as dimensional robos. Might still be played in Daikaiser. Can't really say 100%. Imigra are very appreciated. This will make Eva very cheap and easy to build now. I wanna hope. This is Silhouette Arms reprint. So if Silhouette Arms gets support in set 9, then this will be appreciated. This is played in Welstra recently. This is played in Orphis, especially with a new world that just came out as a shop promo. And then Mikani's been going up in price too because Messiah's been good. So overall, good reprints for Brandt Gate, I would say. There's really nothing too much of a whiff outside of maybe this. So for me, Brandt Gate, honestly pretty good. I do dock points because the Impuldio double rare is so bad. So I think I might... Do I give it a 4 out of 5? I feel like this also could be doing a little bit more too. I don't know, but everything outside of this one card is pretty good. So I guess we'll still give it a 5 out of 5. I feel like Brandt Gate overall has eaten pretty well this time around. Moving on to Keter. Keter, I think, is a big winner this set just because of the fact that it has, of course, the Alfred deck in it. So there's a bit more new cards to talk about in this one. First, we have the Ace unit, Scudito. So her unique skill is when she's called outside of battle phase, she gets 5k for the turn. Then Energy Blast 3 to look at top 7. Call one card that is a normal unit that is lower or equal grade than your Vanguard. And then you choose that unit or this unit until the end of your opponent's next turn. It cannot be chosen by opponent's effects and cannot be retired, and then shuffle your deck. So it's like a top 7 that works when called from Tithfold, by the way. So again, like Tithfold, top 5, call this, then Energy Blast 3, top 7, call another thing, give it resist or give the herself resist. I usually think you give herself Because her second effect is when she attacks, if your opponent's grade 3, she gets 5k, and if you have 4 more rearguards, she gets 5k. Like, this is the easiest condition to achieve. 4 rearguards and Keter is like breathing, basically. So again, this will be very good in everything that doesn't aggressively use energy. Unfortunately, Youthberg now uses like, energy very aggressively when it goes first. Like, you have 6 energy on turn 3, you EB3 for your ride line, EB3 for your exist, and the next turn EB3 for exist again, the next turn you EB3 for exist again. So it's like, you never have the EB3 outside of going second. But then the condition is really good, and so I think this is good in like Vita, this is going to be good in like everything Keter, I think. So honestly, one of the best ace units, I think. The top 7 is also very good. Then we have the Shivaru, again, intercept, 5k shield, grade 3. When it attacks, oh sorry, this one's not when it attacks. When it's placed outside of battle phase, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, energy blast 3, it gets boost, plus 5k, and if you have 4 more damage or your Persona Road, look at top 3, choose a grade 3 or lower unit card, call it to rear, give it 5k, and then put the rest at the bottom of the deck in any order. So it's honestly very strong just because it's like EB3 to have an 18k booster or attacker, that, or 23k even, that then calls something from top 3 for like no additional cost is really good. Like, this is a +1 big body and also good shield that basically just like fuels itself. So obviously you immediately want to say like, oh, it's good in Bastion, but this feels good in most things. So I feel like this card has not been talked about too much yet, but what it does is really, really good. And the fact that you can like, if you don't need it, you can just guard with it as a 5k early is also very nice. So again, in decks that don't use too much energy, these are like really good energy dumpers that I think will do a lot of work. And then I guess we can talk about Alfred immediately. The Safiota reprint is very good. That's another dual nation that's used a lot. Alfred is really cool. There is one card that supports Alfred that is not in this set, unfortunately, which is a little bit annoying. So Alfred says you cannot be boosted, and if you have Blaster Blade in your soul, so just put it in your rad line basically, for each of your rear guards, he gets plus 2k power. If you got 8k or more and your opponent's grade 3 or greater, this gets an extra crit. So he'll be a 21k or 23k, depending if you have a full board or not. I think usually you want the full board regardless. So he'll be a 23k with a crit, and then once per turn you can Energy Blast 3 to search your deck for a Royal Paladin, grade 3 or lower, and then call it, and then shuffle your deck, and then you can choose the auto ability of that unit, and the next time you'd pay it, it costs counterblast 1 less. So we'll talk about what you can target with that in a second, but when he attacks, you can counterblast 1 and stand the Royal Paladin rear guard, but if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you can stand 2 instead. So of course, the first candidate is the Blaster Blade. Blaster Blade is reprinted in this set, also as an FFR for the first time ever. That of course, on rear guard circle, can counterblast 1 to retire an opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guard, the Basta Basta that you can still do to this day. Technically, you could also search Blaster Blade the Vanguard, but that's mainly meant for the Vanguard circle, not so much the rearguard circle. But there is a Soul Saver Dragon, which is the Virgilua that says it's treated as Soul Saver Dragon with Royal Paladin Clan, that on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Alfred in its name, gets plus 5k, and if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, gets the following abilities. Front row rearguard, at start of battle phase, counterblast 1, choose 3 units, give them 5k power, but if you Persona Road, you can give all your units plus 5k power, so it's very Soul Savery. And when he attacks for this turn, if this was stood by your Vanguard's ability and he hasn't done your rearguard hasn't done a drive check this turn, you can Soul Blast an Alfred, and then this will do 1 drive. So this only works on Persona basically. So on turn 3, you can like call this out and it will buff 3 things for Counterblast, and then you can reduce that Counterblast cost as well because you call it from the first effect. Just keep in mind Alfred only can call from the deck, so if you draw into it, you can't revive it from rear basically. But there is one more Royal Paladin Clan card that is a promo that I really hope they would put into the set, but for some reason they did not. And so that card is this Zero. So this was just in Korokoro, basically. This was a Korokoro promo for this month that is Zero, that is treated as Gallatin with Royal Paladin Clan. And it says, if your Vanguard's a Royal Paladin Clan, you can pay this cost with Energy Blast 3. Otherwise, when you call it, if you don't have a rearguard of the same name as him, counterblast 1 and draw 1. So you can also EB3 to draw 1. When he attacks, for that battle gets plus 5k. If you have 4 more units, he gets plus 10k instead, but he has to attack a grade 3 for that effect, so it doesn't work on your opponent's grade 2. That'd be a bit too crazy. And once per turn when he attacks, if your Vanguard is a Royal Paladin, and this turn you Persona Road, and this was stood by your Vanguard's ability, you can counterblast 1, and your opponent cannot activate auto abilities for that battle. So that means not just can they not activate Perfect Guards, they also cannot activate Sanctitude, because that is also an auto ability even if it doesn't hit the Guardian Circle. So this is like an anti-Sentinel Gallatin. So you're kind of meant to play this in Alfred too, and I really hope that they would just like print a regular Gallatin in Festival Booster. I don't understand why they didn't. Especially for English, it feels like this will like get delayed by a year again if they don't add it. So I hope they know what they're doing, but I wouldn't really put it past them. So those are like the 2 main like restand targets for Alfred. I do think Alfred's okay. Like big power, 5 attacks, but but a lot of the payoff you get does cost a lot of CB, so you have to really rely on like reducing the CB with the call effect. So whatever you call from hand will not have the CB reduced, so I think that makes it a little bit difficult. I haven't played around the deck myself yet, but I think between this and Verdula definitely feels better. So Alfred's decent, definitely decent. The Soul Saver is quite good, but the main call targets are, you know, basically going to be just like Blaster Blade, Soul Saver, and then the Gallatin, I guess, just for the extra draw. So they also reprinted the Radline, Marin, and Wingle Brave, and then also there is Blaster Blade reprinted here regularly as an RE+2, so the whole Radline is back. The other one new card is the Zarafsail / Dekakun support. So if your Vanguard is one of those, this gains the following abilities, gets plus 5k power and 5k shield. And then when this is basically overcalled, you Soul Blast 1 and look at top 3, choose a grade 2 or greater than Regulus piece, add it to your hand. If you didn't, then you draw 1, so it's basically Cadwalla. But if you call this over in main phase, you don't have to Soul Blast 1 for the effect. So grade 1 Cadwalla for like Zarafsail is pretty good because Zarafsail, you know, calls from drop, so you can use this as an attacker and then overcall it and then get something back to hand, so it's pretty good. Otherwise, being a 10k shield is also pretty valid, so definitely not a bad card. I think it's quite decent for that deck. Then the reprints are a little bit sus for Keter. Dekakun, the 18k body, is pretty cool. Cannot attack, but you can Soul Blast 1 and make it lose its original continuous ability, so then it can attack. When it does attack, Energy Blast 3, gets plus 1 crit, and then if you get Cannon Blast 1 for it, it also gets a drive. So only 3 attacks in this deck, but you get 2 crit, 3 drive Vanguard. That's 18k power, which is not too bad. So I guess Love and Berry kind of does that too, so maybe not as crazy as you'd think. And then the other reprints, basically, we have this Bastion grade 2. I'm not sure if this is played in Bastion. I haven't seen Bastion around in a while. Figure Right Skipper is a decent reprint. The Ordeer Dragon is pretty good for a reprint, I'd say. Definitely played in MLB still. Zarafsail, the Revive promo is pretty good. Alden promo is pretty bad. This one's not played at all in Alden, I think. Hamveld, definitely nobody asked for this guy. I think we were good not getting this reprinted, especially taking a bit RE+ slot. This like eats up a Yuika or a Cindy slot, so not too big of a fan of this one. Blaster Blade the Vanguard, this is the first time English gets it a whole year late. Congratulations. I really hope that's not going to be the case with Gallatin next year. And then, as I mentioned before, the Blaster Blade too. So reprints for Keter are like pretty mid, I would say. The new cards are quite good though, so I guess we'll go for like the middling 4 out of 5. New cards good, reprints mid, 4 out of 5 it is. Anyway, as you can tell by the shirt, I'm recording this before I go to work, and now I gotta go, so you might see a bit of a different change in lighting for the Stoicheia part. Alright, back from work and a visit to the Pokemon Center. Let's talk about Stoicheia. So Stoicheia actually got pretty good stuff this time around. The new cards are good. The reprints are relatively good, I think. Let's talk about the new cards first. The ace unit of the nation is Pansy, which is called outside of battle phase on rear. For that turn, she gets plus 5k, and you can Energy Blast 3 to then look at top 7. Choose a 1, discard it, and shuffle your deck. So it's already deck thinning 1 out, much like the Dark States one. And then you can, from your drop, choose a card with the same or lower grade than your Vanguard and call it to rear. So what's really good is that not only is this going to be a mill, it's also in a deck thin. It's also reviving something, which means it's proccing any like when placed from drop or just when placed abilities, just like the Dark States one. So I feel like this one deck thins like the Keter one, but it's not restricted to calling from those top 7 like the Keter one. So instead you can build up your drop throughout the game and then use this later, or you can use it early to deck thin early and then call something out early as well. So regardless of when you use it, it's really good. It's pretty good on turn 2 as well. So it really feels like just one of the best search abilities if out of all of them really. And when she attacks, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, she gets plus 5k, and then if you have 10 or more drop, it gets another 5k. And having 10 drop in Stoicheia is pretty easy. I feel like most decks hit it relatively quickly, outside of maybe Levy Dress, I guess. Doesn't necessarily mill through stuff or like discard stuff much, but just playing Vanguard regularly, you build up a 10 drop pretty quickly. So this will be a 20k beater most of the time, and you can revive it to be a 20k beater whenever, even if you don't use the ace unit's unique skill. So I rate the Stoicheia one really highly. And then the generic grade 3, of course, intercept, 5k shield, grade 3. When it's placed on rear, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, Energy Blast 3 to get plus 5k for the turn. And when this attacks, your opponent cannot intercept. And if you have 4 more damage or you Persona Road, gets another 5k. And you can choose a order card from your drop and add it to your hand. So all of these plus in some capacity, but basically, you know, like the Keter one calls from top 3, and then like the Brandt one binds and stuff like that. But this one just straight up goes like, hey, get some power, stop intercept, which is like okay, but The extra ability allowing you to get an order back is really good because it lets you get back habitat in virtually anything that plays it. It lets you get back blitz orders in stuff like Veleno, and then it's like in Leonor, you can get it back her order as well, the buff one that you play. So it feels like this grade 3 could see playing quite a lot of things again, just because it feels like it's really good conversion for energy. The only deck I might not see this be played was like Estation maybe, because it wants to have more early game attackers and pieces, so it doesn't really play too many things that are not grade 2 or below. So more aggressive decks might not play, but I feel like in general this will see play in quite a few decks. Huxley and the Demerit reprint is very good. This card is used in Estation sometimes, so it'll be a good pickup for the future. And then the new double rares, we got 2. One of them is for Zorga and for Claudine. So this card says that if this turn your Vanguard has bound an order card from your drop, then it gets the following abilities. So basically both Claudine and Zorga do that. So in drop, if you don't have him on board, Energy Blast 3 to revive him. So that's okay, I suppose. Having a free unit for Energy Blast 3 if you're not using that much energy in the deck is pretty good. And start of battle phase, for that turn, this unit gets the ability. For that turn, if you don't have another rearguard with the same name as him, then all of your front row original 5k or lower rearguard powers get plus 5k power. And if you got this ability, then end of turn you put this assault. So the plus 5k power one is basically for Claudine, but it also works in Zorga with Roaming Prison Dragon to make that into a 10k. And the revive is also not too bad. That way you can like revive it on one turn and then use the second effect the next turn basically, which is also pretty good. Build Soul too, and Soul can be a pretty important resource in Zorga. So I'm not really sure how the Zorga heads are finding this one, but it doesn't read too bad to me. Then the Bebebe / Cristiano's support is when you call him, if your Vanguard is one of those two, he allows you to choose a card from drop and put it to Soul. And when he's in drop, if your other unit was played from drop to rear, you can count almost 1 or Energy Blast 3 to call this to rear. So basically if you revive something, this will also revive itself. Combines pretty well with this girl too, because she revives something. So it's like EB3 revives and then put something from drop to Soul, so you can put the Cristianos into Soul to then proc the restanding rearguard immediately. So it's really not too bad, considering it's like you get to immediately make the decks power up on and like do their thing on turn 3. So it feels pretty good as well. And then for the reprints, we have the Bebebe himself. This one lets you Energy Blast 3, look at top 7, choose 1, discard, and shuffle your deck. And then if you have 1 or more blitz orders in your drop, he gets triple drive. And if you have 4 or more, he gives all front row units plus 5k power. So it has to be blitz orders. Unfortunately, Persona Shield tickets don't go to drop zone, but so you do have to play regular blitz orders to make this go off. So I guess you want to maybe like be hard milling into stuff in order to make this happen. Keep in mind, he also has Cristiano's name, so that's also somewhat important. But start of battle phase, you can almost 1 and you choose a card from drop and call it to rear. And then if you have 4 more blitz orders in drop, you can choose 2 instead. So it can basically make you 2 cards on board, or like have you get your multi-attackers basically. And then I think that Cristiano's rearguard restands by his own effect. So technically if you play that in this, then that also works too. So it's not like the worst boss unit, but the blitz order requirement makes the deck build kind of awkward. So that's like the only thing to keep in mind. So he's technically a new card for English. And then we have the reprint for Magnolia Masks. So it's kind of like, okay, Magnolia Masks isn't necessarily going to be played that much, but then the Didikoi is played in some Magnolia builds, so that's an appreciated reprint. Delphina is played in Premium for Mythiarch, and I guess Mythiarch might get support in set 9, so that would also be appreciated if that does become a thing. The Type C Mega Only Battler reprint is kind of appreciated because it's a 16 of, but the only deck that really played this was like original Levidrus, I guess. And then this Cristianos double rare was also, or promo originally, was played of course in Cristianos, and also some Night Rose builds. You'd be surprised, but it prevents deck out, so it's not a bad card, not a bad reprint. Then the Ride Jumper for Orowa, of course, is played in Orowa too. And then of course Mythiarch Habitat is actually a very nice reprint. Having this in foil is good, and also like we've only had 1 printing of this ever in Japan, so I do appreciate it being reprinted just to have more copies. The only one I don't really like is the Maple. I feel like this one's okay, but if this could have been an Alvina instead, it would have been perfect. Would have made Estation really easy to build, or like much easier to recommend to new players, because Alvina is a very important Stoicheia card that keeps on going up in price, and this was like the perfect chance to reprint it, so I don't get why they didn't do it. So Stoicheia overall, new cards are quite good, definitely feel good, and the reprints are mostly good. I'd say there's only like 1 or maybe 2 whiffs, so I think it's like a 4 out of 5. I feel like most of this video have been quite kind, so we'll just give this 5 out of 5 as well. I feel like there's only 1 really like missed beat in the reprints, but I guess no, I'm actually a little bit upset because of the Alvina not being included, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I feel like I'm being too kind for them not reprinting Alvina. And finally, Lyrical, we have a pretty good lineup here as well this time around. I think the reprints are where maybe this is a little bit weak, but you know, we'll talk about that more in a second. The ace unit is Octavia, and when she's called outside of battle phase on rear, you get to give her plus 5k and then Energy Blast 1 to draw 1, choose a rearguard of yours, and for that turn it gets the effect at the end of the turn goes back to hand. So basically it's a Yuika on demand that draws a card, which is pretty good. And when she attacks, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k. And then if this turn 2 or more of your reguards were played, it gets another 5k. So a very easy condition for the plus 5k gain. Most lyrical decks should be able to achieve that. I guess if it was 2 bounce, it would be pretty difficult, but 2 played, it definitely is quite easy. So a very easy to use and strong ace unit. The full bloom is very good. Furu bloom, I guess, is the real name of this. Intercept 5k shield grade 3 that when it attacks a Vanguard once per turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, energy blast 3 to get plus 5k. And at the end of the battle, choose a rearguard and bounce it to hand. If you have 4 more damage or you Persona Road, you can choose 2 instead. I like this one a lot because until now, all the grade 3s were like, do this and then do a completely different effect after that. This one's like, you do this and then you do an even better version of this if you did the other condition. So this one feels really good because it's like Franz set on steroids. Energy Blast 3 to bounce 2 rearguards is crazy. You get to reuse your on-play abilities. You get to call PGs to boost without having to worry about it when you're low on just stuff at the end of the game. So this card alone like does so much for the 3 energy, even though it doesn't like raw plus, it lets you reuse cards, which is, I think it's still very, very good. Like that is what makes Franz set so good, except of course that's also grade 2. This one I necessarily see play in stuff like Artisaria, because I think she's kind of okay with the 1 bouncer nowadays, it seems like, just with the Yuika, and also just because late game you're just like on full tokens that you don't want to bounce. But in other lyrical decks, I think this will be quite good. Like I think Kairi might appreciate this, but Kairi does a lot of bouncing herself, maybe more like grade 4 Kairi. So overall, I do think this card is very good generically, so definitely a must pick up for lyrical players. And then we have a Marlane support and a this is Charmot and Michu support. So the Marlane support is if you're buying a Marlane, gets the following abilities. When placed on rear, look at top 5, choose a grade 2 or greater normal unit, reveal it, add it to your hand, and if you did, you discard 1. And then in the battle that you boosted, you put this to soul to choose your back row rearguard and stand it, and then choose a grade 3 or greater normal unit from your drop, and then you put it to bot deck. So essentially, because Marlane lets you like what attack again with your front rows, this basically lets you restand a back row to have a fully boosted attack. The top 5 to add something, and then ditch one is like the ditch one is a little bit expensive, so I'm not too big on it, but the deck thinning is somewhat nice. But the more standout double rare for me is this one, the Murura. At the end of the battle that she boosted or attacked, if this turn your rearguard drive checked, she can put herself in another rearguard in the same column as her to the soul to do one of the following. Either choose a non-sentinel grade 2 or lower normal unit from your soul and add it to your hand, so that immediately allows you to, like in Michu's case, get back the right jumper because that goes to soul. Or you can CB1 and choose a grade 3 normal unit from your soul and add it back to your hand. So that allows you to like get Charmot back to Persona Ride next turn, which is also pretty good. I guess technically you can get back the dress up from this as well if you'd want to do that, to like keep Persona Riding, but I feel like getting back the right jumper is better. And then her second effect is in soul, if your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, you can bind her to choose a normal unit that is not a sentinel from your drop, send it to bot deck, and then choose your Vanguard and give it plus 5k power for the turn. Plus 5k for the power for the turn is really good because of the Charmot buff, but it's also pretty nice. I mean, it recycles Persona Ride basically, which is very nice. It also allows you to recycle stuff like your Nokuno grade 2 for the Michu deck, allows you to recycle the dress up as well for this deck to like search out with the grade 1 again. So you can get that back with the first effect and then use the second effect to recycle the grade 3 to like go into it again. So overall, just feels like this does a lot for Michu and like still does quite a bit for Charmot as well. So pretty impressive card. And then there's no Korokoro stuff. Basically, it's all reprints. So we have the vanilla deck now has a foil reprint. I guess she was foil in the promo pack too. Then this Pacifica supports promo is also reprinted. This Marlane is also reprinted, and then Shiana promo is also reprinted. Michu's sneezing order is also reprinted. I forgot that this was a shop promo, wasn't it? And then Lyrical Shooting Stars, I guess, never had a second printing. This was only, was it? I thought this was reprinted at some point, but maybe not. This was like really expensive at one point because Kyoko was good at one point, but that's not the case anymore. So this one being an RE Plus is a little bit of a missed beat, I feel like, but can't be helped. But at least Yuika, they reprinted Yuika again. Her price has gone down for the time being, but probably not for too long. So again, if you consider playing Lyrical, if you want to play Artisaria, pick up your Yuikas now. When they reprint, they get cheap for a very short time, about a month or so, and then they announce a new Lyrical deck that everyone wants, and it starts climbing again. So before they announce the next Lyrical deck or the next like Lyrical Cup or something, or not even that, Lyrical set or something, like honestly, pick up your Yuikas. They've been used ever since they were made, and you're definitely gonna want them. How would I rate Lyrical though? I feel like these two are really good. This is really good. This is questionable. And then the reprints are honestly feels like it's like I'm greedy, so I want to say like Franz sets, Guncycler, Stoicheia. It's like it feels like there's quite a few good ones, or like proper support to like, you know, they made Kaidi recently. They could have reprinted her like grade 2 or something. So none of like the reprints people wanted are in here. At least for the other ones, it feels like some of them were like, oh, I could kind of play this. But I guess these are all like promos for decks that people maybe found hard to get because they were promos. So I guess it's fine. Like Pacific players, I'm sure are happy about this. And, you know, Sienna players probably happy about this. And of course, if you're playing Michu, it's pretty easy to build her now because of this. Lyrical Shooting Stars, I guess. So I don't know. I guess it's a 4 to 5. It's got good points, but it got some pretty low points. So I want to give it a 3, but I'll be honest. I'll be not honest. I'll be kind and give it a 4 to 5. And that is it. That is it for both Stoicheia and Lyrical in this entire set, Festival Booster 2025. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below what you think about Festival Booster this year. Do you also wish there was more higher rarity? And do you feel like maybe they didn't do much or enough on the reprints? Because I personally do feel like they should have done more for the reprints, given that this is our like once per year reprint set. And if not, then I hope Alvina is getting a reprint soon because that card desperately needs one. But anyway, with that, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.